Here's a video on factoring quadratics. So let me first explain what we're doing here. So here is a screenshot from Edgenuity, and you'll notice that they go from steps this orange to this yellow. So there's a regular quadratic and they factor. So what we're actually familiar with is going the other way around. I don't know if yellow really shows here. So if I had x, I may not use yellow just because the color. So what we're used to is having the factored form, x plus 4, x minus 2, and converting it to x squared plus 2x minus 8. So we might be familiar going from factored form to standard form. The way we do this is we use distributive property. So you look at the first term, x, and we distribute to the first term, second term. So we do x times x, x squared, and then the second arrow is x times negative 2, so we get negative 2x. So we did distributive property once, but we do have a second term here, so we're going to do distributive property again. I don't want the arrows to coincide, so I'm going to make my arrows going downwards. So here I'm going to use distributive property again, but this time from the second term, 4 to x and 4 to negative 2. Then we get plus 4x minus 8. And you'll see here, if we simplify this, you'll notice just following the like terms, x squared is the only x squared, so that ends up as that. Negative 2x and 4x, combining like terms, will be positive 2x. Then we have negative 8, negative 8. Bam. So here, using the distributive property, we can go from factored form, and then we were able to go to standard form. And let me write here that we used distributive property 2 times. Because we used it here once for the pink, and we used it again for the orange. So now this video is going to show you how to go from here up here, standard form to factor form. So we're going to do this, but the other way around. So we have, let me just write the original, x squared plus 2x minus 8. So just so this helps you memorize, the word factor means to multiply. And you'll notice here that when we go from standard form to factor form, there's a multiplication that's connecting the two sets of parentheses. You'll notice for standard form, we have the addition operation and the subtraction operation, but the moment we change to factor form, it becomes this multiplied by this. So there is a multiplication in the middle, and that's why it's called factoring or factored form. So here I'm going to show you from this quadratic how to factor. So we know ultimately we want something multiplied by something else. So you'll realize that usually when we do distributive property, the first two terms, this term and this term, has to multiply to that. So we know that x has to be here and x has to be here, because x times x will get x squared. Now the numbers at the end of both sets of parentheses, this is where we start playing this guessing game, or it's like a number sense pattern. So there's something called a factor diamond. It basically just helps us stay organized. So here, let me just draw this factor diamond here. So for this factor diamond, you're going to put the B term below. So if I were to show you the standard form template, right now B is 2. So I'm going to put the 2 right here in my factor diamond. And on top here, on top of this factor diamond, we're going to put A times C. So you'll notice A is 1, so it's 1 times -8. So here, this just helps us organize. You don't have to use the factor diamond, but basically, we have to right now think of 2 numbers that when we multiply, it equals -8, but the 2 numbers that we think of when we add them, it has to equal 2. So we're like, okay, what 2 numbers do we put into these green boxes? So when they multiply, it equals -8, and when we add, it equals to 2. If you actually reference up here, whatever 2 numbers that go at the way end, when you multiply them, it has to be this number, and that's why -8's up here. So let's think. What 2 numbers equal -8? So we can think of, well, -1 and 8 is equal to -8, right? So could these be it? You'll notice -1 times 8 is -8, but when we add -1 plus 8, it equals 7. So it doesn't equal 2. So these numbers, these numbers don't work. What about if I did 1 times -8? So instead of these numbers, let's say I do 1 and -8. 1 times -8 is -8. But once again, when we add these 2 numbers, 1 and -8, it doesn't equal 2. So once again, it doesn't work either. What about -4 times 2? That equals -8. So if I put here -4 times 2, okay, so we got -8, but what happens when we add these together? -4 plus 2 is actually, if we add these, -4 plus 2, it equals to -2. Yikes, we're really close. We want a +2, not a -2. So it can't be these. So let's try making +4, and let's make it -2 this time. So 4 times -2 is -8, and when we do 4 plus -2, it equals +2. Yes, so this time these 2 pairs work. The moment you get the 2 pairs of numbers, one number you're going to put in the orange, and the other number you're going to put here. So we have x plus, one of our numbers is 4, times x, and our other number is -2. And then we factored it. So this is our factored form. We went from standard form to factor form. You can always double check by using distributive property. So if I go back up here, you'll notice, oh, we did end up with the same thing. You could always use distributive property to see if you go back to your standard form.